Hello there, David. You constantly surprise me. David Marklin, our director, putting together that little intro before the Dark Delicacies intro of cars falling into holes, and some of those were pretty funny because like a little motorcycle driving up it. Okay, today is a real treat for me. We have Sarah Langan on. She just put out a brand new book called Good Neighbors, and we'll talk all about that. I've known Sarah probably, I was thinking about it, probably about 2 decades. So that's kind of interesting. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So let's bring her in because it's all about her and not me. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, hey, I
What do
think
you
it's
think?
been 15 years. I'd
15
say that
years.
long.
Wow.
Is that
Well,
a
the
long
first
time?
book, what? First book came out, what? The Keeper,
Oh, 06 or oh 07.
'06 or '07. So yeah, and it was through HWA, I think we originally met, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Horror Writers Association, for those who don't know what HWA means. Your new book is Good Neighbors, and it's getting a lot of buzz, and it's your first book in a while.
Yeah.
Um, the first three books, The Keeper, The Missing, and Audrey's Door, was those were kind of like a trilogy, right?
Well, so the keeper sold, and the publisher who said, and by the way, you have to write a sequel to it. And I was like, okay, but if you've read the keeper, it's a very discreet story. So I couldn't do that. So I wrote The Missing and just put some characters that were in The Keeper in The Missing for a chapter. And really, luckily, everyone was like, this is fine. We can use this. And then Audrey's Door was a standalone, but I would say that the thing that they all had in common was um, they were all sort of a specific kind of horror. I think they were all, well, Keeper and Audrey's Door especially were sort of psychological, female-driven horror, and actually The Missing too.
By the way, if you're watching this live, you can leave a question for us, which we will get to. But I also wanted to say, if you were here at 7 to get started, I was the one who was late. It was my fault, and I apologize profusely. And then I'm going to go blow up the Dell offices um, with my computer that I've been having nothing but problems with. So, but sorry about that. But I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad that you hung in here for us.
Oh yeah, I was
Um,
happy to.
the first three books, they were all mass market, were they not?
Mm-hmm. They're all
So
mass
this is the
market
first
paperback.
time you're getting a trade paperback or hardback or whatever.
Hardcover, yeah.
So how does that feel?
Good. I was afraid to ask them. I was afraid like the last minute they'd be like, let's paperback. Even though like there's no market for paperback and it doesn't exist anymore. Like it's still paperback. So
There's no
uh
mass market because the Kindle and those kind of things kind of knocked it out.
yeah.
When we moved to our newest location with the store, Dark Delicacies, we eliminated mass market. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it feels
so
great. It feels great. The acquiring editor is a young woman who's hungry and just works really hard. And when she acquired it, I think she was assistant editor at Simon and Schuster, which is it's unusual. And uh, I'm very lucky. I feel like because I feel like she's championed it in ways that I would never have expected and I've never experienced before. And I think that's just 100% luck of the draw.
yeah,
So,
that kind of thing happens, and isn't it nice when the lightning strikes like that?
oh my God. Yeah, it's great. And then the publicity department has been great. So, I mean, it's just a whole different world, the kinds of stuff. Oh, I gotta plug in my laptop. I'm sorry, but it's been
It's been
just
nice knowing you. Yeah. And now she'll be back as somebody else. I don't know who she'll be back as. But
Oh,
there is something on her webpage that made me think about this book. If you go to sarahlangan.com and or go to her private page there, you will see, if you get on the right page within her page, a painting of her, and it's done by her dad. So one of the things I wanted to know is if the cover of your book is done by your dad.
no,
It
no.
almost looks like that style to me.
It is that style. You're right. You're right. He always wanted to be a painter, but he became a doctor instead. And then about probably 15 years ago, he took up painting again, and he does it on weekends. And so he did that painting, which I love.
The
And
painting of you.
yeah, of me. And then he does the kids. His house is just filled with paintings. And I've always wanted him to do a cover, but he didn't do this one.
Yeah,
This
I
one was,
thought it. I went, there's a good chance he did this by the style.
yeah, that's a really good catch because the colors are really similar too.
Now, something that, and although you may have a monster or two here and there, your books really deal with psychological horror. And I don't know if that, and that seems to be all four of the books. Even though the psychological horror might be different, one might be a tormented individual, like, say, Audrey, whereas this is more like a tormented neighborhood. So, in some respect, what draws you to that aspect of horror?
Um, I think I'm always trying to figure people out, of things that compel me. I just want to know what makes people tick, why they act the way they do. And then I think I just moved it onto a bigger scale with this one, which is, well, why do excuse me, why do crowds act the way they do? Why do people in groups do one thing that they wouldn't otherwise do? Um, it's a lot about the social network to me. I was thinking a lot about Facebook and Twitter with Good Neighbors, but why overall is it about? I think uh, I think truthfully that there's this cognitive dissonance in being a woman that I tend to interpret as horrific, which is this idea that you can be anything you want and you can be president, but we can't be president. We've never been president. And this constant, like, if you work really hard, it's going to be just like it is for a guy for you. Don't worry about it. And then it's not. And it's a constant gaslight. And I think the reason I have horror in my work also has a lot to do with that, because it's confusing and you don't know if it's real, and you don't know if you're just feeling sorry for yourself or if you just have psychological problems or something. Trying to parse what's happening is is an interest in, I'm interested in it in my own life, and I'm just generally fascinated by it.
Do you think the thing with Kamala Harris getting in is a game changer for that exact process, thought wise, you're talking about?
Oh, that it feels really good. It does. It feels really good. I cried. I just felt so relieved for that to have happened. It does feel also like an old white guy had to hold her hand and make it. She didn't need the hand holding, but had to vouch for her and sort of be her boss to make it possible. So there's work to do.
And yet I'm seeing him kind of acting as much as he can in what he knows as not being her boss but her partner.
No, he's great. He's great. It's just like how palatable can you, for a lot of people have an issue with it. And even if they tell you they don't have an issue with it, they do. Like, I grew up in a town that was all Republican, in my hometown. And like,
You're East Coast?
yeah, I'm East Coast, Long Island. It's pretty reactionary place. And I see all the Facebook posts of the people I went to high school with. I'm like, wow,
Oh yeah,
wow.
yeah. I'm a Michigander where we try to shoot the governor. So it's that's why we're out here. You know,
Yeah,
I've always said that the reason you come out here is because you come out here to create your own family,
yeah,
as opposed to where you're born and those friends that you're kind of thrust into. So you get to recreate when you come out here.
it's true. It's true.
So 9 years or something. Let's see. Audrey's Room was 2009. It's 2021. Fill in the gap.
Um, two kids, and a lot of short stories in that time. I would say probably 2 books worth of short stories. So there's that. I don't know. I had like Audrey's Door didn't sell well, so everyone didn't want to touch me. That was a problem. And then I had,
Well, you became a loser when it doesn't sell well.
oh my God, people are, yeah, it's surprising. Yeah, I became a big loser. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's only your third book and you're already sunk like the Titanic. Yeah.
it did not make any sense. Um, but but I don't know. I wrote a book between Good Neighbors and Audrey's Door, and I spent every day for 5 years working on it. And
Horror.
it did not sell to the big publishers. We sent it out like right before we sent Good Neighbors out, like 6 months before. And we didn't send it to everyone. We sent it to like the top list. And then my agent, who's a great agent, Stacia Decker, pulled it and was like, maybe this isn't the one, but you have the other one. So maybe that's the one. And that one was the one. So that was hard. That was a really, really hard time.
Well, especially when
And
you consider you had 5 years into it. I mean, my first novel, I think, was 5 years. I'm finishing this one up, which is my 10th book, but only my second novel. And there's a big difference between putting together anthologies or nonfiction and doing a novel. And the second one is now taking 2 years as opposed to 5 years.
yeah.
Do you think maybe do you have, well, let me put it this way. Did you have any problem with Audrey, or do you think maybe you got too comfortable in the process that when you got to Audrey, did it feel like a little more by rote or no?
No, I thought I was trying to do something new with Audrey. And I think that was an issue. But I also think I just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think the market fell out of paperbacks. I had to fire my agent at the time. I'd found out he'd been doing something he shouldn't have been doing. And then I didn't have an agent for Audrey. I had a new guy, but he had no interest in
Right.
it. So there was no protection. My editor left, so I had a new editor. And it just, there was nobody behind it. And then I thought, you know what, I'll just work hard on the next book and won't give anybody a partial, because I hated the process of Audrey's Door. Even though I liked the book, everyone
Was it a different
thought
process than the first two?
they all thought I was going to be a bestseller, so they all had to have their say in it. This has never happened to me. It was just like I didn't, for whatever reason, I wasn't protected. And so I was having 3 different editors, my agent and his friends all give me comments. So
It was
that
like
was
walking out on stage naked.
it was so weird,
Yeah, you're vulnerable.
I was like, I never want to do that again. So I just want to write a full book. And then nobody knows who you are after a few years if you haven't sold anything. So
Right.
they're like, who's that? Is she old? Like, like what? This isn't a thing. Why isn't, it's that publishing thing where nobody wants to take a risk until they do. And then, so yeah, it was not an easy time.
Well, and the other thing that they do, I know when I'm selling books, my agent does, they submit it, and then these publishers look at prior sales to see what they can expect from you.
Yeah.
And it's a different book, and it never even really holds up, because if they keep you to that scale, you'll never go above it because no one will take the chance.
Yeah.
Us as writers take the chance, which is what you did with the Audrey book. You took a chance on the story and the theme and what you wanted to try and do. Chance means you can have a monumental failure, but it means you can have a soaring success too.
Right. Well, it's that model. I mean, everybody knows this, but they they print so many, they sell so many, and then they do less every time, usually.
Right.
So not, depending on who your people are and also how good the book is. Like, could I have made, I don't know. I thought I wrote pretty good books. So
You're happy with it, and that's the main thing, is that you're pleased with that. Now, did it make you alter your construction of a book in any way? Because obviously every book we write, even though we start out maybe the same way, it ends up being constructed differently.
Yeah. So I kind of, with Good Neighbors, I'm just a different person than I was then. And I don't know, I have a short, like a novelette out called Night Nurse, and a novella out called Prettiest Mask, and they came out this year. And they're different too. And they're sort of much more, I'm not like starting out with a bang and then you're sort of waiting for the horrific thing to happen because you got the character backstory and you know how it's going to play into this monster that's going to happen.
Right.
Like, for whatever reason, that formula was no longer interesting to me. And the new formula that I've sort of been looking at is sort of the psychology of people, that backstory, how that plays into their human relationships, and how their decisions and their psychology informs what's going to happen next. And that is kind of where I'm writing from. So, sometimes there could be a monster, but there doesn't have to be.
I don't think of monsters when I think of you, but I do definitely think of psychological horror.
Yeah.
When you came out of Columbia,
Yeah.
did you, with an MFA, right?
Mm-hmm.
While you were in Columbia, was all you were thinking about writing was horror, or what really set you down this path?
That was what I always wanted to do. And when I went to undergrad at Colby, you can get a minor in creative writing. So I did, and they had a rule that you weren't allowed to write genre back then, which they've since changed. So I didn't, but then I got an advisor. You can sometimes do an independent study for your last thing. And I said, I started writing something, and my advisor finally said, "Are you writing a ghost story and you just haven't pulled out the ghost? Because I'm going to say no." And I was like, "Yes, I am." And she was like, "All right, I can't stop you. Let's just do this as genre study. You're going to study ghost stories from now on," which was great. Her name was Susan Kenny. And she was really supportive. And then when I went to Columbia, they did the same thing. They said, "No one's allowed to write genre. We hate horror. And, it's garbage. So you can't do it." And I did the same thing. I started a novel like from day one, which was The Keeper. And everyone was like, "Is this horror?" And I was like, "Yes, it is." And they tried to tell me I couldn't do it. And more practically, they told me I wouldn't be able to sell it because horror at that time did not sell. And I just did it anyway because, like, I'm me. So, but they supported it once it got to the point where it was very clear either they were going to let me do it or I was not going to go to that school anymore. So
now, was that book agented? Did you have an agent on The Keeper?
Yeah, I had an agent on The Keeper, but I couldn't get one until, let's see, I graduated Columbia, I don't know, in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a draft of Keeper. And everybody said, all the agents said, "Why don't you write some kind of like sexy chick book? Because you could do it." And I was like,
because you're a chick.
Yeah. And I was like, legit, I couldn't. There's a reason I'm not doing it because it's clearly not my natural voice. So I was at a Horror Writer Association bar night at Dempsey's.
We had bar
And
nights? Oh, yeah.
yeah, we had bar
Yeah.
nights. Oh, you're kidding. Yeah. Yes, we did.
Yeah, we
And
did. Funny, I don't remember them.
and this agent who was a new hire at Gersh, she had created the job for herself. She came to them and said, "I love books, and you need a book to film person. So why don't I have this job?" And now it's a job. Her name is Sarah Self. I met her at the bar, and I gave her my book, and she found the agent for me. And she went through horror agents who were all like, "We don't need this. Like, we have our horror guys. We don't need new horror, and we definitely don't need new horror by a woman." So we found this one guy who would take it, and he sold it. But that all happened in like 6 months. So I finished the book. I'd been polishing it for years and writing other stories. And then I met her.
Yeah, at that time, I could have counted on one hand the number of female horror writers I knew who were being published when
Yeah.
you came out with The Keeper. So that pretty much fits into the whole scenario, you know.
Oh, on the book tour, they sent me on a romance convention.
Oh, good.
They didn't know what to do with me. They were like, I was like, no one's gonna. I was all in black, and it was women all in pastel suits.
Right.
It's like what they're doing is right, and I believe in like romance novels, and this is great, but this is not my market. Like, there's no reason that I'm here.
Now, do you want to continue?
have no
Let
idea
me
what to
remind
do.
people again. Sarah's brand new book is called Good Neighbors, and I think that we can honestly say there's a strong nod to Rod Serling in this book.
Yeah.
So, Twilight Zone was so much psychological that it's kind of funny to watch that come along and things intertwine and your books intertwine and psychological horror happen. There it is, right there. Look at that. Because I mean, it's an obvious nod, you know, that we named the street and all of that good stuff. So, but something else you started, or you were with people that started it, and you were part of them, was the Shirley Jackson Awards. Weren't you founding in that?
That was, I was approached by, I think, Paul and John when the idea had come up, and I was on
Paul
board.
and John, who we have an audience.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul Tremblay and John Langan,
Uh-huh.
who is not related to me, but has my last name and also writes horror, and then Brett Cox and Joanne Cox. So the five of us just thought it was a good idea and thought it would be fun. And we went up with a board of advisors, and Ellen Datlow was really instrumental to that. And that's been about 15 years.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
was nominated for an early one, so we have another connection there. Of course, they cast me aside with the rubbish, but yes, it was. Did you feel there was a need for another award, or what was actually the point of the starting?
Oh, I think it was to have a juried award. I think that does make sense to have. And I think also that award is much more about psychological horror than some of the other awards out there. I mean, at the end of the day, it was also fun, and I'm still on the board.
Right.
And I like knowing those people. At the end of the day, it's great to get books more attention. There's never a need not to have another award. At the same time, there's so much work out there that doesn't get awards, that doesn't get noticed, that doesn't fit into the boxes. So I'm not trying
Exactly.
to.
It's nice to see some unknown or little known titles outside of the genre groups themselves that maybe gives them some publicity and lets other people pick up on them.
Yeah. So I mean, it never hurts. So.
Right. Can we talk for a second on JT,
Yeah.
your husband? he's a filmmaker right now. I think he's been more involved in video games, writing and whatever than film. But when he was making more film, he was making some good horror. Does
Yeah.
that like you guys rub off on each other, or how does that work?
Honestly, we do. He's still writing screenplays, and he worked on *Malignant*, which is coming out. And he's worked on a whole bunch of stuff. It's just,
Right.
in Hollywood, you can do that, and it's. But what I've noticed is that we're constantly having conversations about things that are interesting or things that are on our mind, and how does this work, and how does that work, and then we're writing the same things. It's just from very different points of view. Like I've set something that's a pilot in Shell Beach, and it's sort of a colony, right, in California. And I was like, hey, where's your pilot set? And he's like pitching it right now. He's got lots of interest, and he goes, Shell Beach. And
Uh-huh. So now you guys are synchronizing your periods, basically, is
Yeah.
what's going on here, right?
I love that.
Yeah. Do you believe in writer's block?
I'm told it's a thing. I mean, I no, but I do believe that the way that affects me, the way that I get caught is I won't give up on something, and that's sort of my greatest strength. Like, oh, I'm gonna spend 10 years writing Keeper, and someone's gonna buy it at some point. I'll do that, and I won't take the note. And I think as I get older, I'm learning to take the note. And the note isn't to distill my vision. The note is like, people don't really want this right now. Maybe
Right.
work on this. You know,
Right.
if your goal is to be published and to have an effect on the culture, take the note. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But block, I've never stopped writing, and even through this desert of not having books published, there's never been a year where I haven't had a few short stories out
Right.
that have been, decent. So no, I think maybe if you're personally sad or I don't know, it hasn't happened to me. And
Right. Or if it does, it's like, no, I'll write tomorrow. Yeah, so like today, okay, I'm not there.
yes,
No? Yeah.
not. I mean, I don't. Yeah, like it's something I really like doing.
Do you write every
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
Yeah. A set
Not a
time?
lot.
Or what is your schedule? Just you write, and then when you're done writing, you're done writing.
I've got the kids, they're home, it's Zoom school. So I used to go to writing space after I dropped them off, and then I'd write and pick them up. But now I'll get up at 7, I'll write till 8, and then wake them up. And the morning hours are when I like to work. But that's the fresh stuff. As you know, like when you're editing is like the fun part to me. Because you
Exactly.
can do it forever and, for 12 hours. Fresh stuff, an hour or two a day.
Yeah, it's a different part of your brain. And I get really tired of writing the skeleton. I love putting flesh on the skeleton.
It's so much easier.
Yep.
You're not like,
The inevitable question. Let's end it with the inevitable question. Planner or pantser?
what is that? Oh, pantser.
Do you outline, or do you just
Pantser.
sail with it
Pantser. 100% pantser.
for both the novels and the short stories?
The whole thing.
But you have an idea where you're going, or you have no idea, or do you just know your start? Or do you ever just come up with an ending and say, I'll get there somehow?
I have no idea. Like, I'll just go in and be like, I should just write something today. And then if I really get attached to it, I'll start to see where it's going. And then if I have to sell it, or I think about at some point, this has to go to a market, then I'll go, okay, where is it going? And I'll backtrack. But
Interestingly, the one I'm working on right now, I'm outlining backwards. Like I write it, and now I'm outlining the chapter so I know what happened in each chapter.
right. Right.
because I need to go, what was the name of that general store, or what was his dog's, and then I have to search through the whole book to remember where I mentioned it. I hate that. All right, let's give this a good wrap up for everybody. The new book is called Good Neighbors. It is available at Dark Delicacies in the shopping cart. Sarah will be signing copies of it for us, so you'll be able to order a signed copy. And I'll let you, because you had to come up with this. We were just talking about that, Sarah. I'll let you give as much away synopsis wise. Go ahead, pull them in. What do you want to tell them about the book?
Okay, it's a fish out of water story about a newcomer family named the Wilds from East New York, which is not a great neighborhood, who moved to a nice suburb, a cul-de-sac, Maple Street, on Long Island, and it's loosely based on the Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, the Rod Serling episode and Twilight Zone episode. And what happens is they really want to fit in. They want their kids to go to the good schools and have a better life, but they have a lot of scars and emotional scars they're coming with, and they're so rough around the edges that the neighbors don't quite trust them. What happens is a sinkhole forms in the middle of the block because this is the near future and global warming is more evident, and the neighbors are much more anxious about things they can't explain and their jobs and stuff like that. So they begin to think that maybe the strangers, there's something wrong with them. They really think that when Shelley Schroeder falls down the sinkhole, and she is the daughter of the queen bee of the block. The queen bee has an axe to grind against the Wilds and begins to start rumors that they have done something to her daughter. And that's where the real action starts to take place of what happened to Shelley and what are the neighbors going to do because they think the Wilds did something bad.
And that relates all the way back to our little intro by David Markland and why you had all those sinkholes in the video. Thank you very much for being with us. Reminding
Thanks,
everybody again, go ahead. You can order the signed copies because we take your orders and have them lined up. And in fact, if you want to, prior to this Sunday, the 31st, you can probably get them personalized if she's in a good mood. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, she's going to try to be in a good mood. So that'll be okay. Thank you for joining us. And if you didn't catch all of this or you want to watch it again, you'll be able to see it on Facebook or on the Dark Delicacies YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.